relationships are the greatest mirror and container for personal growth and development.
The men they want to be, the life they want to lead, are on the other side of the work they are resisting doing.
What do you see the biggest challenges in dating and finding a life partner are?
Show up like that, minimum 6 months. You have a completely different marriage and wife.
You do deserve to be taken care of, but not just because your value is on your aesthetic.
Men are not afraid of commitment.
Today, I have the honor and privilege of sharing the knowledge and wisdom of my friend Nico Cannon, who is a best-selling author, a writer, a coach, and a facilitator of ayahuasca ceremonies. He is helping men and women bridge the gap to discover what's missing in their relationships by using ancestral wisdom and practical coaching tools to help them to develop a deeper love and connection. Send it to all the men you know, because this podcast is filled with nuggets of knowledge and wisdom that is going to truly change your lives. I hope you enjoy watching this episode of the Path Podcast. If you haven't yet, please hit subscribe, follow, and drop a comment. Let me know what you think. What is the one thing men need to know to save their marriages?
They need to know that nobody's coming. That it is not anyone else's fault. That the very things that they resent and judge their wife for are things that I guarantee they will run into their next relationship. And ultimately that sooner or later, they have to stop playing victims of my marriage is not what it is because my wife is like this. She treats me like that. And take full responsibility for it. To understand that nobody's coming, and not only nobody's coming, but the man they want to be, the life they want to lead, are on the other side of the work they are resisting doing. That their wife is mirroring in such a crude way that they can't stand it. It's not that they cannot stand their wife. And I spent over a decade talking to men recently divorced, on the edge of divorce, their desire or their wife's desire, and it always amounts to the same thing. We don't divorce our wife or our husband or boyfriend or girlfriend. We don't separate from the other person. We divorced the bundle of difficult emotions that we experience in connection with that person. So I'm never, ever running away from another person. I'm running away from myself. And I'm bound to run headfirst into that part of myself. Next time, I reach the same amount of depth and love and vulnerability with another person. So, like, sure, divorce her, cut it out, and, you will see that person again in a few years in a different body. Nobody's coming. One day we have to look at them, look within, and do the work. So I will say that, like, nobody's coming to save you. The only one that is coming, the only one that could save your marriage is the version of you have been avoiding. That's it.
Yeah. What is the experience or the challenges you went through for you to have this realization? Because you've shared a bit about your past with me, about who you were being, the patterns you were looping, and your struggles and adversity. Mm-hmm. So, who were you that had to learn these lessons?
Mm-hmm. So, I've been on both sides of the spectrum. Starting as I was so shy growing up and socially awkward that one time I watched a movie and there was this little kid that was kind of like a genius and in his head and building blocks and like completely without friends and just awkward. And I asked my parents, what's wrong with this kid? And they said, he has autism. Like, what is that? It's like, some people, they have hard time being social. In their minds, they have a big imagination and they're often geniuses, but they don't know very well how to connect or relate to people. And I remember thinking to myself, like, fuck, I have that. I hope nobody finds out. I hope they don't take me to a doctor because But I grew up thinking I'm autistic. Like, to the degree that I couldn't even raise a hand to ask my teachers a question about something. If I had to ask them something, I would like nudge my classmate and bribe them. I would say, like, in my lunchbox there were chocolates or chips. I would say, like, hey, I'll give you a bag of chips if you ask this question. And there were friends that said, like, all right, like, give me the chips, and they will ask it, and they thought I was silly. But for me, it was, like talking to an adult, talking to a woman, no way. So I remember in my early teenage years, I thought I'm probably going to die a virgin. That's how it was. So I remember I watched in the TV place where they say that if you lick your hand in this shape, it simulates making out with someone. And I was standing in the mirror like, this is kind of strange. So that was, that to illustrate the extent of that. For some reasons, I found myself with a girlfriend. And I came home thinking, like, we kissed, and I came home thinking, like, that's it. I'm a realized man. And I even asked my father that. Do people ever marry and have kids and die next to the first person that they kissed? And he looks at me like it's an innocent question. I'm 14 years old. And he's like, it's possible. It's unlikely. It doesn't happen very often. But yeah, it's not very likely. People don't know themselves enough. But yeah, for some people it has happened. And I remember thinking, I think that's going to be me. Just one woman. Not because I was so in love, but because I was so insecure, and I thought nobody ever again is going to pay attention to me, so I better secure this one. That relationship lasted one day. And I was heartbroken, and I think for a lot of men, I think people in general, but for men, heartbreaks kind of unleash something within us.
And we close our heart a little bit more each time.
Yeah, and I think the shame of being dumped, of not feeling good enough, which was packed on my own conditioning from childhood, my parents, whatever. But the way I coped with that is like, you know what? I'm never going to find myself in this situation again. Mm-hmm. I'm never going to be the wimpy, weak, shy,
vulnerable.
Yeah, like it hurts so bad that I'm like never again. That's not going to happen to me again. Then a couple of years later, I moved to Canada by myself. I was about to turn 17, and I thought, in Colombia, I was the nerd of my high school. Mm-hmm. Literally, 1 year voted the least likely to have a girlfriend. They did a survey with everybody wrote. I don't think my name was even there. They just forgot. Oh, yeah, Nicholas. He doesn't date. He probably, who knows if he likes girls. He's just good student, that's it. So I moved to Canada, and I thought, I'm gonna show them everybody. I'm gonna turn myself into somebody else and then come back and be this tough guy. That collided at one point with, back then, the pickup industry. I ended up learning some of that, which was toxic, but beyond that, to compress things and to answer your question, fast forward about a decade, a little bit less, I was working as a dating coach. I was being paid to travel around the world, to give conferences on open relationships, on how I was the guy that spoke at different stages in many different places around how you have threesomes with your girlfriend, how you have foursomes with 3 girls, how you become this sexually explorative kind of person. My identity turned into, at that point, taking steroids, 200 pounds. I got, tattooed completely. And I was the party guy. I was literally the guy that some women will call and be like, hey, I have a girlfriend that has never had an orgasm. Like, I talked to her about you. You want to help her? I'm like, sure, send her over. Or, hey, my girlfriend has never had a threesome. Do you have a girlfriend? You want to join? Sure. I was the guy that was down for whatever. And I thought, that's it. I'm the man, I had a girlfriend at the time. We had an open relationship. And I found myself thinking, I'm making good money. I was working as a dating coach, but also running a tattoo studio here in Toronto. And I thought, that's it. Like, I'm the man. I have a lot of money, more money than I had ever had. I have a lot of women that want to be with me. At one point, I was dating 7 women at the same time. It was an open relationship. They all knew about it, and it was a lot of scheduling. But I thought, that's it. And once again, a breakup. The woman that was, let's say, like my primary girlfriend, or the girl that I was actually in love with, she broke up with me, and it ended in a very toxic way. It ended exactly 1 week afterwards. After, in my mind, I had thought, I think I have this dating thing figured out. I think I understand women. Everything you need to know about making a woman attracted to you and lust after you and desire you. I literally had this thought, like arrogance. I know everything you need to know about women. And life has its sense of humor, like, oh, do you? And then in a week, my whole world was turned upside down. I realized I don't even know anything about the woman I've been dating for 3 years. I don't know who she is. I don't know who I am either. And in that moment, I realized, like, all right, I'm just as lost, if not more, than when I was a shy kid. I'm in way more pain. Like, where do I go from here? Because I knew I had so much resentment, so much bitterness towards her. I projected out on women. But I also knew that I wanted to fall in love eventually. I also started taking a lot more drugs. I had a couple of overdoses. Like, my life started spiraling a bit out of control, hanging out with shady people, getting into shady situations. And I would have ended up either dead from an overdose or in jail from doing something stupid while high or on drugs, and just anything but the life of the high school nerd, good boy, mama's boy, you know.
Anything to prove them wrong back home.
Yeah. And in many ways, I realized, like, this is not the life I want to live. Like, I've lost myself in this journey. I don't even know if I ever knew who I was, but I could feel that this isn't it either. Especially at the bottom of that pain, which was, you know, it was a Saturday morning. It was probably like 5:30 a.m. The girls I had slept with, that I had recently met, they left the apartment. Drugs are, like, I'm coming down from drugs, from drinking. There's no more alcohol in the fridge to keep partying. Everybody's sleeping, so I'm left by myself. And I remember a lot of my clients used to pay me cash for the tattoo business, so I had a bag full of just like tens of thousands of dollars. And I remember I would grab it to go out and party, or like that was my budget for the night. And I remember, like, I'm sitting in my office. Next to me I have this, you know, like a good Colombian man, a bag full of cash. I've just had a wild sexual experience. I was just surrounded by a lot of people having fun, and I'm just empty and miserable, and still suffering from that breakup. And I realized, like, I'm just consuming myself slowly. The pain, I don't know how to manage it. My whole life, I had run away from feeling that I'm lost. My whole life, like, I will do whatever. Like, I'm gonna be the hyper-performing kid, best grades in university, in school, so that it looks from the outside that I've got my shit together. Then in my 20s, I'm gonna be, you know, the tough guy with the women and the parties, so that it looks like I've got it figured out. I will do anything not to feel lost, like that I don't know what I'm doing, because that was vulnerable and painful and just overwhelming. But that day, you know, I broke down, and I think for the first time in my life, I was able to accept to myself, to stop bullshitting myself. I accept 2 things. One, I'm lost. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I don't know where I'm going. I know it's not this. Number 1. And number 2, I need help. Like, life broke me down, my arrogance. It humbled me. It needed me until I softened. And, you know, looking back, I realized that the very first step to find ourselves is to admit we are lost. If we don't take, and that's that most people never take it. They never, no matter how much pain throws at them, how much pain life throws at them, most people never get to that point. For me, it took a lot, but that day I decided, you know what? I'm lost and I need help. And when that's sincere from the heart, life is listening. God is so forgiving and so loving that it's just waiting, not to rescue us, because we're more powerful than that, but to co-create with us. And the moment that, we as his children say like, I'm lost, I need help, right away. A friend called me like, hey man, I'm running this men's retreat for the next, this men's program. We're going to wrap up with a vision quest, which for those that don't know, a vision quest is 4 days and 4 nights fasting in isolation in the middle of the mountains. It's a rite of passage. You prepare for it. A shaman guides you. There's a lot of details around it, but you basically spend around 100 hours traditionally without water, isolation, no contact, no distractions. It's usually just a hammock, a tarp. If you don't think you can stick around, you can ask them to tie you to a tree. But that's it. Nothing other than yourself and nature. And I realized that day that, not only I feel lost and I need help, but I realized that I don't know myself. How can I love myself if I don't know myself and if I don't spend any time with myself? I realized that as a man, and I think also for women, it is rare in today's world an adult that has spent, I would say, even 2 or 3 hours fully with themselves in their whole life. Mm-hmm. Counting out time as children. Like people say, well, I spend time with myself. I watch a movie, I meditate, I do yoga, I read a book. That's time doing something. Mm-hmm. Being with myself, just being. And I realized that I have not spent, not even in my mother's belly, because there was a lot of stimuli and there's a relationship with my mother and whatnot. And I realized no wonder I don't love myself. I don't know. No wonder I don't trust myself. How to trust someone I don't know, someone I don't spend any time with. So for me, it came out of that. That was the beginning of my whole journey. I told my friend, you know what, I'm going. I need that. I need to know who I am. Who am I when there's no party, when there's no women, when there's no drugs? Who am I when I'm not the cool guy, when I don't play any role for anybody, when it's just nature and myself, my mind and myself and solitude? There's no food to hide in, nothing to do. And I cannot even move out of that circle. I was scared because I don't know, but also excited about the possibilities of starting a friendship with myself and seeing the truth of who I am. Because I was tired of running away from whatever was inside. You know what? It may be painful, but I'd rather face it if there's the possibility of something different than just keep spiraling in these circles. So it took the edges of shyness and basically being weak and feeling like a victim and disempowered and being bent over with women. That's also why I didn't have relationships. Like a nice guy to being an asshole, to realize that first, none of those are a true expression, but ultimately none of those are useful if what I want to create is a loving relationship with myself and with my woman.
Thank you for sharing that, because there's so much in common between our journeys, the parallels between you not loving yourself as a child, feeling insecure, developing this I'm going to show you and prove them wrong mindset, and creating this identity of who you thought you needed to be in order to be loved. And so many men and women, especially men, because there's this standard, there's this expectation that we hold ourselves to, thinking we got to be strong, we got to be tough, we got to be sexy and attractive, we got to get the women, the money, the cars, the clothes, all the things we think we need to get in order to be a man. And we become this person, this version of ourselves. And then one day we realize everything we want is just beyond that person that is in our own way, which is us and that identity. And it sounds like you hit a rock bottom where you woke up one day and you realized you don't want to be this guy anymore. And it's in that moment that we have the option to choose. And to your point, most people won't choose. They'll continue to suppress the pain. They'll continue to distract themselves, to not face the darkness, to not face the bullying, the childhood trauma, the insecurities, continuing to just distract and continue on. But the truth is that pain never goes away. And you could either choose to deal with it, or life is going to force you to deal with it. Because ultimately it'll come up. But the question is, do you want to deal with it now and enjoy the rest of your life free from that pain? Or do you want to continue to make choices that are unconsciously impacted by the false self you've created, living a life that's unfulfilled, looping the same patterns over and over again? And I think why most people are afraid to make that choice is because it gets harder before it gets easier.
Mm-hmm.
And once you choose and you begin the path, it's a never-ending journey. You have to continue choosing to be in alignment, to be that man you want to be till the day you die. I see the impact you're making and how you're helping other men now step into their authentic self with integrity and confidence. So I would love for you to share a bit about that, because I know there's many men and women watching and listening who are resonating with your story and asking, okay, well, what do I do? How do I change?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So first, you mentioned two things that I think are very essential that I just want to highlight, because people may just listen and not, but no, very, very important. It gets harder before it gets better.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go to the gym, first you feel sore before you get fit.
Absolutely.
That's the way it goes. There's first the labor and then the child and the beauty of being a mother. Not you don't get a child without the pain of labor. Yeah. Such goes with anything in life, any creation, us creating ourselves anew. The greater the creation, the greater the labor. If we reject that, then we're doomed. But what I think about every time that things get hard, every time that life is testing me, or I feel like, like, it's really worth it. I could just be partying and chilling and no worry. I read somewhere once a quote that said, like, what makes you think that you were able to survive the pain that broke you, but that you will crumble under the one that heals you?
Mm.
And I think about it, like, the worst is already gone.
Yeah.
The worst passed already. I'm carrying the leftovers of, like, the worst. Sure, there will be challenges, but it's just upside from here. So I think that was one thing that very, very important. And yeah, the second thing around commitment. Men are not afraid of commitment. You know, a lot of women say, and one of the complaints that I used to get when I was dating coach was, oh, men are scared of commitment, men are commitment avoidant and whatnot. I'm like, that's not true. For hundreds, thousands of years, men have been willing to give up their lives for that which they were committed to. A religion, a political party, a country. Like, men willingly enlist themselves to go and get killed over what they care for. There's not an absence of the desire to commit in a man's DNA. No. What we're afraid of is enslavement. A lot of men confuse these two things, like, oh, if I commit to a woman, I'm not going to be a free man. Mm-hmm. I'm going to lose my freedom.
Yep.
That was the case for me. So the
same with me.
The first thing was realizing that my true freedom lied at the other side of my commitment. For me, it was realizing that sleeping around, being promiscuous, was not freedom. Because when that wasn't happening, when I went into a club and women were not looking at me, or I was flirting and they were not paying attention to me, or when they left me for another guy, or when I went to another country where I was not seen as attractive, or when I didn't get that kind of validation, then suddenly I felt so much pain and anxiety and worthiness, and like I needed it, like a drug. I need to be reflected. I need to reflect my value in a woman's eyes, in a pretty woman's eyes. I was a slave of that, a slave of my lust, and a slave of my desire for approval, for validation. That's not freedom. I had to realize that first and foremost. I'm not free. I'm a slave. How do I know I'm a slave? Because I cannot say no. I cannot just stop and be chill about it. I'm addicted. Therefore, it owns me. I don't own it. So, which was difficult because I thought, oh yeah, I just get to decide when I sleep with someone, when it's just for fun. It's like, no, I don't get to decide. If I cannot take a break from this for a year or say no to it, I'm owned by it. Mm-hmm. And understanding that commitment was freedom. When I committed to my wife, I was free from even the consideration or the choice of like what woman I'm going to go out with on a date, I'm going to sleep with, what's, this constant analyzing and mentally grading, is this woman good for me or not? All of that, like as men, we spend so much of our energy scanning for potential partners, resources, time and money, like seeing if it works. There's just so much of our energy and our life force that is thrown into this. And if that's a full-time job, if we do it often, then there's a lot of our creative power that goes that way. Versus, this is my woman, I'm her man. I'm committed, therefore the alternative is no longer an option. Therefore I am free. Mm-hmm. I don't need to think again another time. I don't need to waste any of my resources into considering anything else, an alternative. Like, that's it. This is something you asked me at the beginning, what's, about men whose marriages are failing, like what to do. One of the first things is that my marriage works as a result of my commitment. My commitment is not the price I give my wife for being perfect, or my marriage for being what I want it to be. It's like you're an entrepreneur. This. A business is not going to take off unless you give yourself fully to it. It doesn't explode, and then you're like, okay, now it's generating so much money. Now it went up. No, it's very rare that it happens that way. Usually, you gave your all in the face of challenges, of whatever. You pour all of your into it, and as a result of that, something beautiful happened. So, to circle back to your question, first, understanding that commitment is freedom was the first thing that I had to reprogram in myself. Commitment is freedom, not the other way around. Number two, commitment in relationships also frees me, it liberates me. And anything that I do can become a beautiful thing as a result of me being committed to it. Otherwise, nothing happens. But what lies underneath that, and the main commitment that I've had to take is, we don't really commit to a woman. And this is something that I figured out the last couple of years. A man never commits to a woman. Also, a man is never afraid of committing to a woman. What he's afraid of is committing to the man he knows he needs to become.
He does.
For that to work out.
Yeah.
That's a big ask. That's a tall order for most men. So I realized it's not that I'm committing to my wife, Anastasia. I'm committed to the man I need to become for this marriage to work, which was a big jump from fuck around Nicholas on King Street 5 nights a week. It was a different man. Like, this man could not have had a healthy marriage, he couldn't even have a healthy relationship. The results, the relationships that these men could have are not the same that these men could have. My commitment was never to my wife, but to myself. So for anyone listening to this, watching this, is it's like, oh, should I commit to her? Should I commit to him, to this relationship? We don't commit to a relationship. We don't commit to another person. We commit to the person that we need to become or not.
Yeah. And part of that commitment is the willingness to go deep within ourselves to see what part am I hiding and holding back? Because to your point, a man will sign up and go to war to fight a battle for what he believes in. But will that man open his heart? Will that man allow himself to be seen, to be vulnerable, to express the pain that he's holding on to? Because, as we talked about before, men will avoid feeling that pain and allowing themselves to connect to those emotions, because that is actually scarier than going to war, right? Opening a business, doing all the things necessary to be a successful entrepreneur. It's in the head, it's not in the heart. Yes, you need passion, you need commitment, but there isn't the same fear there of telling someone your deepest fears and exposing yourself. And in my own personal history of relationships, I love being in love and I love being in a committed relationship. However, my relationship never evolved to the depth of a love that could lead to engagement and marriage, because when challenges arose, I didn't know how to say, I'm feeling insecure, I'm feeling jealous, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling angry. I would just enjoy the good times, suppress the bad times, and ultimately get to a point when the honeymoon phase was over. I would end it and move on. And then I would spend a year or two just being casual, having fun. And it's because through early heartbreaks, I made the choice, I made the decision, I'm never going to let anyone do that to me again. And I closed down my heart, and I would only love so much. I would only let someone in enough to have a fun, enjoyable relationship, but never got deep. And, you shared earlier about connecting to the depth within ourselves and loving ourselves, trusting ourselves. We can't believe someone else would love us if we can't love ourselves. So we question their love. And even though I've had loving partners who have really given me their heart, I couldn't receive it because I couldn't connect to that depth of love within myself. And that commitment you speak of, in whether it be a marriage, a long-term relationship, whatever it may be, it's, am I willing to show up for this person in a way that's going to cause me to look at all the dark parts of myself, all the parts of myself that I hide, that I'm ashamed of, that I feel guilty of? Am I willing to look in the mirror and confront those parts of me and overcome what I need to in order to allow myself to connect to this amazing human in a way that allows us to develop a deep, loving relationship that has infinite possibility? And that's been my own journey of realizing why I've chased for so much of my life. As you talk about dating multiple women and the date, texting, calling, all the games that we play, I've been chasing all my life. And then I've had these relationships in between. And for me, what really transformed my perspective on women and relationships and just what it means to be a devoted, committed partner is healing my relationship with my mother and realizing that the love and the nurturing and the safety that I didn't receive from my mom is what unconsciously drove me to receive the affection, the love, the admiration from hundreds of random women. And that has been my journey to heal that past with my mom and to develop a loving, caring relationship with her So I could feel secure and safe and now not need that from the external.
Mm-hmm.
So that for me and for, any men out there listening or watching, if you're chasing, if you're on the dating apps, if you're DMing, if you're doing all that, it doesn't stop on its own. Getting back to your point about making a choice and committing, you have to look at, why do I do this? What part of me is addicted to that dopamine hit of constantly wanting the attention of the feminine?
Yeah. Most importantly, also, like, what do I really want? And am I ready for it if I find it? A few years ago, there was this man that he reached out to do some work together. And he's like, man, and he was an expat living in Medellin. So, foreigner, women love him. Very popular on Tinder, goes on a lot of dates. But he's like, man, I'm kind of tired of this. And I see your relationship. I want to build something beautiful with a woman. I said, like, all right. Are you ready to get off the dating apps? I don't know, maybe after some time, I still want to, I'm like, yeah, we can't work. Because you don't really want this. Or else it would have been a clear yes. Like, yeah, like, I'm ready. I want to find my woman. I'm ready. I'll do whatever it takes. Sure, I get off the dating apps. There's no commitment. In his mind, it's like, yeah, I want to find a woman. But in the meantime, it's like there's no meantime. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, who you're being is that guy who's caught up in that kind of mess. Or not mess, that kind of exploration, that life experience. Who you need to be a match. Like a woman looking for a life partner, she's repelled by guys who are in this place.
Yep.
So you don't get to be this guy and get this guy's results. You don't get to be a player, a fuckboy, and get devoted man's marriage quality relationships. Like, doesn't work like that. You have to choose. His case, he wanted his cake and eating it. Like, doesn't work like that. It reminded me of a story. There's a video online. I was laughing so hard when I watched it. It's in Spanish. I watched it a few years ago, and there's this lady. She's selling tacos. It's in Mexico, and it's like 5 a.m, and she has this tray full of tacos. Let's say she has probably, like, I don't know, 50 tacos, and it hardly takes her the whole day. She sells each for like $2. And then there's this guy recording, and they're in a little Jeep, and the driver is recording, and then the co-pilot is talking to the lady, like, hey, how much each taco? And she's like, $2. And he's like, okay, how many do you have? She's like, I have 50 tacos total. And he's like, all right, give me all of your 50. I'll give you $100. She's like, no puedo, I can't. Like, why not? I'm just about to start my day. I still have to go all the way there. And he's like, how many can you sell me? She said, I don't know, maybe 6, 5. He's like, I'll give you $150 for your tacos. She looks at him. She's like, no, I can't. I just started my day. I still have to go up there and like sell them through the road. The guy's like, I'll give you $200. She's like, no, I can't. And he's like, and the guys are laughing. And I'm watching that and thinking, as a business person, you suck. And I'm laughing and I'm thinking, in my mind, I'm judging here. I'm thinking, well, like, she's pretty uneducated, probably not very bright. That's probably why she's selling tacos on the side of the road. I have my own judgments. And I'm thinking, like how stupid. You could have been done with it. Go home. You don't have to spend the next 6 hours of your day walking up and down the street hoping to sell all of your tacos. And then I remember that day I went on a floating tank and I lay down and closed my eyes. And the first thing that comes is the lady with the tacos. And I'm laughing. I'm like, how stupid. And then something says, that's you. Like, that's not me. I will sell them right away. Like, no. You have your own version of those tacos. All those women, all this dating, all the drugs, all the drinking, all the partying. You're not ready to give it up. You think that you think that this is a means to an end, let's say like the woman thinks this is like, I just want to make $100 today. Like, not true. Like she without the busyness of selling tacos the whole day, she wouldn't know what to do with her time. Her identity is so much being the lady that walks up and down the street that she can't fathom a day where she's not doing that, even if she gets to her result right away, even if she gets a greater result than she could have dreamed of. And then whatever, my consciousness, whatever, they say, like, you say you want a relationship, but look back, there's a couple of women that you've met that were perfect fit. But no, you still need to party. Like, very often we're like that. We say we want something, but what we want is the experience of chasing it. A lot of men they say they want a healthy relationship, but they're addicted to the chase, to the validation. It's like
they need to feel chosen and selected over and over again.
And that's why when a woman comes and she's like, I'm ready, and they love her, they sabotage it. Like that. Yeah. Like, no, I still have to party. I have to keep checking my options. For what? You're never going to choose. You're just afraid of what will happen when your life is void of all the ways in which you're hiding from yourself. That was the case for me. I committed to my wife. I came back to the city. And, all right, so what's the point of getting drunk and partying anymore? Of course, no dating apps. A lot of friends that I used to hang out with around that, like, well, no point. And I realized how much of my life was going into that. I didn't know what to do with myself. That's what I was running away from. Hiding in dating, like the anxiety of not loving myself enough to enjoy my own company.
Yeah. And I think if more men understood how juicy intimacy is, like really connecting to someone on a deeper level where you can be fully seen, you can allow them in and let them love you with all of your imperfections and create from a place of your true essence together. It's incomparable to selling 2 tacos, 4 tacos, 1 taco, 6 taco here, there, for those little dopamine hits along the way, wasting time, versus going all in, selling all tacos, getting double the return, and building something significant. And again, going back to the intimacy, into you, me, see, into me, you see, with the intimacy, if you're not ready to let someone really see you, you'll never cultivate that depth. And I feel that is the biggest missing in dating right now. It's so easy to just double tap, swipe, DM. There's no investment of time, no investment of emotion and connection. We're more connected now than ever before in human history, yet we've never been more disconnected. Dating is very challenging. I was speaking to a gentleman I work with who's 30 years old. He's having trouble dating. There's a statistic that says 50% of men under 24 have never even been on a date or had like physical contact with a woman because they're smoking weed, playing video games, and watching porn. So I feel that dating, whether you're in your 20s or 30s, or whether you're in your 40s and even 50s, it's never been more challenging. And I think, again, part of that comes down to, even if it's a simple date, can you connect on a real level where you're creating the foundation based on authenticity, not on projecting who you think you need to be for them to be attracted to you? Because you've got 2 people showing up on a date, projecting this image, saying the things, doing what they feel they need to do to be accepted, and wonder why you don't feel a connection or a spark, right? Unless it's just 2 people who just want to have sex and hook up, and I don't even know if people are still doing that. It's never been more challenging. So you having been the player, having been the dating coach, now a committed man, helping other men and women improve their relationships. I'm curious to know, what do you see the biggest challenges in dating and finding a life partner are, during these times?
The biggest challenge in dating is for sure that wrong idea that has spread unconsciously around perfection and who a woman should be. We go on Instagram and they're all they're fit and perfect and always happy and always traveling, and that's it. Or the man is always making business deals and
flying private jets and driving Ferraris.
Exactly, yeah. And for sure this is the reality of some people, but it's just a part of that reality. When I met my wife, she had just exited the modeling industry in Russia. She was a supermodel. She was in Milan Fashion Week. She was, by many people's standards, the epitome of beauty. She was the pretty face for Nivea. And I think the first time that we were walking around in Russia, she's like, "Oh, there's my face," billboards and different things. I'm like, "Oh, she's known here." One of the things I struggled with the most was her humanity. Suddenly she's not this pretty Russian woman that is supposed to fit my fantasies of the perfect girlfriend. She's got her shadows, she's got her trauma, she's got her shit, she's got her needs, her wants, her own kinks around connection, her own fears. So many times I wanted to exit because of that, until I realized, actually, we are so disconnected from our own humanity, our own emotions, especially the difficult ones. They're so suppressed that we carry, or a lot of people carry, this unrealistic ideal of what a relationship should be. So the moment it gets a little tense, they eject.
Thinking that it'll be easier to start with someone new.
Yeah. This is just not the person for me.
Yeah.
It's like, well, really, are you sure? Or it sparked emotions in you that on your own you suppress, right? So the biggest challenge is that because of social media, there's this mental image of what men and women should be, what relationships should be, that is so far off. So people go into relationships with big expectations of whom the other person should be for them, not how I'm going to show up, but who that person should be for me. Big expectations paired with a fear of witnessing their humanity and showing my own. We all want, or a lot of people want to live an Instagrammable life, and they think the relationships should also be like that. So I would say this is the biggest challenge, that most people are probably chasing a false ideal, a romanticized ideal. Not to say that relationships cannot be beautiful. And one of the best experiences that we can share with another human being, a romantic relationship. If you ask a healthy mother, she'll say that being a mother is probably one of the most meaningful and transformative experiences of her life. And if she's honest, she will also say one of the most difficult, painful, excruciating, anxiety-evoking. It was all of it. That made it beautiful. But we forget that with relationships, we think we're just going to get the pretty side of the coin, or we get to ignore the shadows. And this is what gets in the way, because people don't give themselves a chance or others a chance, because the moment it gets a little tense, the moment is not what I see on Instagram, the moment is not what TV has sold me or other people, then I'm out. I was selling number one. Number two, we have more distractions than ever before. Meaning we spend the least amount of time with ourselves of all generations ever. At least, like growing up, I didn't have a phone until I was, in my late teenage years. You get to feel bored. You get to what am I going to do with my life today? You get to stare at the ceiling. Like, I knew my room inside out. There's so many days that I just spent looking at the walls and the paint, and I knew where I lived. I knew like how my nails look. Today, there's just so many things that we've become desensitized. We're so numb because of how much stimulation is coming into us. So I would say this is the second challenge, that we're so disconnected from our life that for most people they don't know what they want truly. Beyond someone attractive, all right, sure, someone healthy and attractive, cool. Beyond that, most people don't know, like, what are my non-negotiables? What are my needs?
What are your values? You know, how do you know who you want to be with for the rest of your life if you don't even know what you stand for? Because what are your values that are important to you? What are the values you want in a partner? And ultimately, what are the values of the relationship? Mm-hmm. And if you never spend time with yourself, asking yourself those questions, then how do you know what you want to create for your life? And, you know, just going back to the point of walking away when you find the flaws and the perfect Instagram image is shattered. I heard something once that really, when I heard, I was like, okay, yes, that's what's been missing for me. So true love is loving all parts of the person, even the parts that you don't love. Loving their humanity, loving the parts of their shadow that may trigger you, may upset you. Can you embrace those parts of them as well? And learn and grow together through that. Because in the beginning of the relationship, we want to project all of the best qualities. We want to convince them how amazing we are and that we're perfect in every way. But we're not. And in time, the flaws, deficiencies are going to surface. And if you start to see that in the other person and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, this isn't what I signed up for, you're going to move on. However, if you stick with it, you learn the lesson. Why does these qualities trigger me? Why do these qualities upset me? Why am I not attracted to these qualities? What is there for me to learn? In this, that is the growth. That is the evolution. That is working through. And this is what I wasn't able to do. I wasn't able to say, you know, babe, when you do that thing, it actually makes me feel pretty insecure. And it triggers my jealousy. And let's talk about why that's coming up for me. Because it has nothing to do with her. It has to do with my own story, right? As you know, relationships are the greatest mirror and container for personal growth and development. And like many others, my relationships never evolved because I wasn't willing to look in the mirror and face what was being shown to me. And that, I think, is the biggest missing, is when people aren't willing to do their work individually and together. And that I've seen be the biggest downfall of many relationships as well, is one partner starts to do the work, starts to face their shadows, and the other partner isn't willing to. So going back to your point of commitment, I'm committed to doing the work that I need to do to show up as the man that my partner needs to. But is she committed, and are we committed to also do the work to become the couple that will grow and evolve together? Because otherwise you outgrow your partner. One day you roll over, you look at him or her, and you're like, why are we even together? And that requires trust and courage and the willingness to be committed to go to the depths of the darkness and hold each other through that.
For a relationship to be beautiful, to be sacred, passionate, both people have to be super involved and committed. That being said, in my work I've noticed, especially a lot of men are often waiting for their wife to lose some weight, to get a bigger ass, to get a little bit more fit, to change her hair, to become a little bit different before they're ready to love her better, before they're ready to be better boyfriends, husbands. They're waiting for their wife to communicate things in a bit more loving way, to be more conscious before they're ready to step up. What I've seen over and over and over in my own marriage and with my clients is that The beautiful thing about commitment is that first and foremost, it transforms the person that embraces it. But I've seen sometimes it is magical. Sometimes within myself, I have committed, you know what? I'm going to be this kind of man for my wife.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stop lying. I'm going to be open. I'm going to face the facts. I'm going to open my heart. I'm going to stop judging about this and that. Like really, I've resolved, like this is it. Like no more of that. And before I have even mentioned anything to her, before she has done anything, just the way that I'm being, the way that I'm showing up, instantly, I've been surprised because, like, who is this woman? I instantly get a different wife and therefore a different marriage, even though she hasn't been doing the work, quote unquote, right? So it's like an employee shows up to the business, and the employee that is like, it's almost 5 p.m. All right, 4:59. See you, boss. Bye bye. And the one that is like on time, in integrity, walking the extra mile, like really showing up for the team, being a good leader, being a good employee. Both of them have the same boss, but the relationships are so different. Why? Because one's commitment is, in our commitment, we create the other person, who they are to us. In my commitment, I create my wife. That elevates her. And of course, there's only so much I can elevate my partner through my own sheer power and creative force. Ultimately, long term, it's like a spark. Like if the other person is not ready to catch their own fire, I'm just gonna drain my fuel on trying to get them to ignite their thing. So people have tried it, and I've seen it. It fails 90% of the time when one partner is really, really, really devoted to doing their work, and the other one just doesn't care for it. Because then this person starts being very mindful about how we communicate, how we don't avoid difficult emotions, very mindful about language, very mindful about intentions, the vision, and this person doesn't care for it. Eventually, this person is going to feel annoyed by this one, and this one is going to feel resentful. I think it was Mark Twain that said, never try to teach a pig how to sing. He will frustrate you and he will annoy the pig. And it's crude, but in relationships, most people are trying to teach a pig how to sing and frustrated about it. It's like at one point, like first, commit. 20 men watching this was having a trouble in the relationship and they're trying to figure out, is my wife, am I trying to teach a pig how to sing or is it me? I would say like first, take yourself out of the equation. How? First, assume that it's 100% your fault, your responsibility, yes. Your problem, it's on you. First, assume that she's a perfect being and that if only you showed up better, you have a completely different marriage and wife. Assume that it's all on you. Show up like that, minimum 6 months, ideally a year.
Taking ownership.
From that place, ownership, it's all on me. The way her nagging, her complaining, everything I don't like that she's bringing to the table, I've planted it somehow, consciously or unconsciously. Just assume as an exercise and see. Most men realize 6 months into it, I have a different marriage. She's so beautiful, she's so loving. Well, then it was you. Now if you show up from that place and she's still nagging and whatnot, now you know for sure. Now you can live with dignity and honor. Now you understand that, you know what, I've given you my all and it doesn't work. But most people never reach that point of certainty. That's why people stay in relationships for years. Should I stay? Should I go? Because they never commit and they never exit. But I believe wholeheartedly that to have a clean exit, to have total awareness that this needs to end, I must at first commit it. Otherwise, I will never know for sure if it was her or it was me.
Yeah. And then you could at least walk away with peace of mind knowing like I gave 100%. I did everything within my power and the pig wouldn't sing. It is what it is, right? Because we're all on our own journey and we can't force people to do the work. All we can do is inspire them by being the change and hope that they choose to make the changes for themselves, right? So I'm sure, many men and women are listening or watching this podcast and questioning, what can I do to step up? What can I do to commit to change? So I would love for you to maybe share what are some of the tips or resources or any guidance you may have for men listening who are wanting to really commit to finding their partner or deepening their relationship with their partner and creating a new depth of love and connection in their marriage or relationship.
So for those who are in a relationship, men or women, I would say very easy. You need to put your ego and your arrogance aside and come to your partner really wanting to know the answer to this question. You come, you ask them, in what ways could I show up better for you? In what ways could I be a better partner? And in what ways am I showing up right now that are bringing pain or friction to a relationship that I may not see? And you let them know, I want to get this handled. I'm willing to do my work. Do not hold back. I will listen to it. And I won't judge you for bringing that, no matter how painful, how difficult it may be for me to hear. I want the truth. Your partner will tell you because they know you. They're there with you, and they know the stuff that bothers them, which is very likely to be the thing that's going to bother the next person if you decide to divorce, separate, and go. So, and you can start there. They're going to give you a list of the most pressing points that you could take care of.
Yeah.
Now your job lies in hiring a coach or figuring out by yourself, whatever it takes for you to commit to being that.
And receiving it with humility and being willing to actually now respect and honor what they've shared with you.
Yeah, that's essential. Otherwise,
they'll resent you more. I told you what was wrong. I told you what you needed, and you didn't do anything.
It requires humility. It requires saying like, "Hey, I know I'm not the perfect partner, but I want to be.
Yes,
and I'm committed, and I need your help because you know me, and there's parts of myself that I don't know because they're my shadows.
Yeah,
and turn the neck far enough to see them, but you see them all the time. So you're my ally. Let's co-create this. But you help me with my blind spots. Of course, a great relationship is where then you can take the turn and tell that to the other person, and she can listen to it with an open heart. No, that's for people who are in a relationship. For people who are single, I think a good place to start, especially for men, is that we have a lot of demands on the kind of woman that we want.
We have this checklist there, all the criteria.
I used to have 6 pages written down fully of everything from her height, her hair color, her eye color, her boob size. Because this says you have to visualize, you have to be clear, you have to be specific. I'm like, every year I will add on the 31st one more page. I just want to be more specific until I realized actually better use of my time would have been. And for those who are single, it is men or women, especially women, because women are. I've seen this in my career so much. Women are so entitled to a man's provision, a man's care, a man's desire, that they don't have the humility to figure out in what ways they're not deserving or have not earned it. And this will upset a lot of women because they're entitled.
Yes.
But many women think that all men should be masculine, providers, leaders.
6'4", making 300, 500K a year. They've got this crazy list. Yeah.
There's all these things.
Yeah.
And more, and emotionally mature and connected to his heart. It's like, all right, sure. What are you bringing to the table? Yeah. Do you have the qualities that man wants in a wife? Yeah. Or for men, okay, all right, you want the fit woman with the toned body and healthy and vibrant and wild, but you're full of Cheetos and a beer belly and playing video games. Dude, come on. So you make a list of the kind of partner that you want. But that's the middle step. That's not the end step. And then, based on that list on every quality, what do you imagine a person like that will value? a woman like that will value. Oh, she's fit. She has a nice ass. What do you mean she values? A man that cares for his health and that works out and is fit, athletic. Or a man. Oh, I want a man that is generous, that is supportive, that is a good provider. What do you imagine that man values? That kind of man values appreciation, respect. She also values being supported, meaning his relationship is not getting in the way of him producing, which a lot of women do. They find a guy that's making money and they become a stone in his foot. And then they're surprised that the guy starts pushing them away. It's like, come on, you're getting in between a man and his purpose. That's not a good place to be. It's like between a bull and a red piece of clothes. Like, you get out of there. You want a guy that is on a mission, there's a different kind of woman you have to be.
Yeah.
I'm saying better or worse, but for single people, you get very clear about the person you want to be with and crystal clear on what do they value. And that's your list. That's your homework.
Yeah.
The next year. That's it. All right. How you look at all the areas in your life where you are not being that, where you're not being appreciative of the men that are already in your life. Somebody carry your back. Somebody open the door. You just take it for granted. No. Thank you. It means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Where you're not supportive of the men of your life. Maybe it's your father. Maybe it's a friend. Running a little get-together. He just launched a little music album. You're going to support.
Yeah.
Because you're not because you have to do it for him, but because you're becoming the kind of woman that is supportive, is appreciative.
Yeah.
Or because you're becoming the kind of man that takes care of his health, that is organized. And you don't have to go on the dating apps. And I've seen this with clients, with friends. You start to get these things crossed off the list of who do I need to be. The person shows up.
Yes.
They move in next door. Somebody invites you somewhere, and that person sits next to you on the dinner party. You're hitting the gym, and you're using the machine that they were just using.
Yeah.
Like, it will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. The advice I was given by one of my coaches, which I share because I took it to heart, is rather than looking for the one, become the one. Because as you said, you start improving your health because you want to be with a healthy woman or healthy partner. You start going to Barry's boot camp at 8 a.m. There's a higher chance you're going to meet someone who's aligned to the health and fitness at Barry's at 8 a.m. than going to the bar on King Street at midnight, right? And just to touch back on what a man values, appreciation from a woman, and to all the women watching or listening out there, when a man takes you out for dinner, when a man buys you simplest whatever, an ice cream, whatever it might be, a coffee, say thank you. Twice. Say thank you when he gets it for you, and say thank you at the end of the night. Just a thank you, that smallest bit of appreciation goes so far, because a lot of men, especially successful men with money, we have this belief that women these days feel entitled because they look good, because they're fit, because they got nice butt or boobs or whatever. They spend so much time and energy looking beautiful that they deserve all these things. Don't get me wrong, a woman deserves to be taken care of. A woman deserves to be provided for. Why? Because one day she'll be a mother. She has to go through things men will never have to go through. So yes, you do deserve to be taken care of, but not just because your value is on your aesthetic and that you are entitled to all these free things because you're beautiful, because your beauty will fade. What is the deep intrinsic value you bring to the relationship that a man, a high value man that spends time working hard, working out, educating himself, being the best version of him, what are the things that a man like that will value that you have to offer? Because the external, the superficial, all of that, it fades. So for the women out there, yes, it's important to take care of yourself, to look beautiful and to, present yourself in an appealing way. But what's most appealing and long-lasting is the value that you cultivate within yourself, the morals, your principles, your ability to contribute to a high-value man's life. And appreciation, thank you, reciprocity, in even the smallest way, just to show hey, thank you, I appreciate you. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can't afford to take your man out for a fancy dinner. Cook him dinner. Have a nice home-cooked meal. You send little notes that just say, I appreciate you. The smallest things go so far. And I think that's a big missing, and it's so easy to help a man feel like a king with those simple little things, And I'm just sharing that because it's what I've experienced in the last few years with dating. I've had some women that have done that, and it feels amazing. And then I've had a lot of women go out to dinner, spend a few $100, drop off. No, thank you. Like, not even a thank you. Like, I just spent 4 hours with you, and not even a thank you. Like, wow, So, anyways, I'm venting a little bit, but you've shared a lot of amazing knowledge and wisdom, and you've shared a lot of your story, and again, so many parallels between yours and mine. I'm sure so many men listening also connect to what you've had to share. And for the men or women who are looking to elevate your relationship or to find your partner or to overcome some of these challenges that we've talked about, you work with men and women in the realm of dating and relationships and conscious connection. I'll put all your contact info in the show notes down below. But is there anything that you want to leave the viewers and listeners with as far as who you are, what you have to offer, and the mission that you're on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, right now for men and women, we do once a year ayahuasca retreats in Colombia. Deep dive. This is 9 days. Anyways, that's on my page, but this is a place where, how we spoke, a man that has not healed his mother wound is bound to unconsciously enact vengeance on his mother through every woman he dates, and same with a woman. So, there's women that they may want to be appreciative, they want to have a certain type of relationship, and they show up and they sabotage it. And so many men do the same thing. The roots are usually found in our history, in trauma, and things that very often are unconscious. We don't even see. So once a year we do retreats where we take people very deep into seeing what's the root of the pattern. Because if we pull that out, that's it. It's out. You come back and you have different life, different relationship. So we do it once a year. And then for the men, depending on when this is coming out, on February, we're starting a 12-week men's program called Velatorus, and this is a modern rite of passage for men who want to do men's work that is not being obnoxiously yelled at in like wannabe military kind of cohorts, but also they don't want, the
kumbaya,
barefoot kumbaya cry circles where there's a lot of sobbing but very little solving for anything. The work that I do, it integrates ancestral wisdom, makes spirituality practical, no bullshit spirituality. So 12 weeks of practical things that I've learned over the last decade to help a man achieve more peace or power within himself, passion in his relationship, and prosperity is always a side effect of a man who's aligned within himself. So
love that. Beautiful. Well, thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for inspiring me and being the example of what it looks like to be a devoted, committed husband. Your journey, how you met your wife, and your story is very inspiring for me because I know you weren't planning on meeting her. It just sort of happened. So that gives me hope that my queen is there, maybe in Bali or Tulum, or, maybe Jimmy's Coffee down the street, But thank you. It's been beautiful to connect with you deeper this year. Thank you for supporting me with my events. And I look forward to future collaborations. So,
likewise.
Thanks, my brother.
Yes, brother.
If you enjoyed this podcast and you learned something valuable, then please hit subscribe so you don't miss the future episodes. I'd love it if you share this with a friend and leave us a review. Your feedback is so important to our growth. Thank you for supporting the Path to Purpose podcast. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next episode.